I was digging through Jenna's work tote looking for her spare car key. She'd locked herself out again and was blowing up my phone from the parking garage. I unzipped the inside pocket and saw the box, sleek, black, embossed with that Mont Blanc logo, like it was something sacred. Inside, a $400 pen, heavy, real gold trim, pristine, not even used. She never mentioned it. And trust me, she talks about everything she gets. Every candle, every gift basket, even handwritten notes from clients. But this, not a word. When she finally came back up to the apartment, I held it out. "This yours?" I asked, watching her face. "Oh, yeah, it's from a client," she said too fast. Then she smiled like it was no big deal and went to hang up her purse. "What kind of client gives out Mont Blanc?" "Luxury buyer. He closed on that Lakewood property last week. I guess he was happy." Quick note, before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. She turned away fast, but I caught it. That flicker. Like her story was rehearsed. I opened the box again later that night when she was in the shower. That's when I smelled it. Cologne, not mine. Expensive, strong, lingering. My gut twisted. This wasn't some "thank you for showing me a house" gift. This was personal. Jenna worked under a high-end broker, Calvin something, ran a flashy team, catered to cash buyers and rich out-of-towners who never saw the houses in person. She dressed sharp, spoke slick, made double what I did on a good month. But I'm no idiot. I'm a tax consultant. I notice patterns, inconsistencies, lies dressed up as logic. And this gift. It didn't add up. I didn't say anything. Not that night. I watched her get ready for bed like nothing happened. She rubbed lotion on her arms, asked if we should do takeout tomorrow. I nodded, pretended everything was normal, but my brain was lit up like a red alert dashboard. The cologne, the pen, the lie. I went quiet. I knew how this worked. You push too soon, they get careful, hide things better. I needed to be smarter, let her think I bought it. So I kissed her goodnight, turned off the light, and started planning. The next morning, Jenna left early. She said she had a walkthrough in University Park, then 2 showings in Plano. It sounded legit, but I watched her drive off wearing brand new sunglasses I'd never seen before. Thick black frames with gold sides, probably designer. When she came home that night, she had a bottle of wine in one hand and a client gift bag in the other, some local spa's logo on the front. "They're generous this week," I said, not even bothering to hide the tone. She shrugged. "People are just happy to be in homes again. It's sweet." I nodded and left it alone. But real estate doesn't work like that. You get cookies, thank you cards, not 5-star spa vouchers and Dom Perignon. Over the next couple weeks, it kept happening. Fancy food deliveries, a subscription to some wine club out in Napa, a silk scarf still in the wrapping. All brushed off with the same story. Happy clients, high-end market, rich people love to give. Maybe once, sure, but not every damn week. She started getting home later, too. "Open houses are running long," she'd say. "Buyers are picky." One night, I watched her throw her heels off and collapse on the couch like she just ran a marathon. I walked into the kitchen, poured 2 glasses of water, handed her one, and just asked, "You sure this job's worth all the extra hours?" She looked up, almost annoyed. "It's not forever. Calvin's trying to get me into the luxury group full-time. Big money up there. I'm just paying my dues." Calvin. That name was starting to crawl under my skin. Later that night, she left her tablet on the nightstand while she showered. Normally, I'd never. But that Mont Blanc pen was still sitting in the back of my head like a blinking warning light. I opened her messages. Didn't have to dig. Calvin was right there, top of the list. Most of it was work-related. Listings, schedules, inspection notes. But buried in between were things like, "You were glowing today." Bet every buyer was staring at those legs. "That dress should be illegal. I'll have to give you a raise." Nothing from her pushing back. No stop or knock it off. Just heart emojis. Lol. A couple of "you're trouble" replies. Not full-blown cheating, but she wasn't shutting it down either. I locked the screen and set it back exactly where she left it. I couldn't sleep that night. Not because I thought she was in love with him. I didn't. But she was playing a game she couldn't control. Guys like Calvin don't just flirt for fun. They groom. They dangle power, wait for someone to get too deep, then pull strings. And Jenna. She was already knee-deep in perks. Her name was on deals that looked too clean, too fast. If I confronted her right then, she'd deny it all. He'd deny it harder. Hell, he could flip it and say she came on to him, that she was sleeping her way into a better commission cut. I knew the way these circles worked. Whisper campaigns, rumors, accidental terminations. She was one step from being blackballed. Or worse, blamed. So instead of going nuclear, I made a different call. I was going to learn everything I could about this guy. His deals, his business, the way he moved, not through Jenna, through his own screw-ups. I started that night, pulled up the brokerage website, opened his profile, scanned through every property he was attached to in the last 6 months. Then I made a spreadsheet and started logging addresses. If this guy was clean, fine, I'd let it go. But if he wasn't, I was going to find the crack. Because once I did, I'd make damn sure he couldn't use my wife for anything. Not career clout, not ego stroking, and definitely not as cover for whatever else he had going on. The spreadsheet grew fast. Calvin's name was tied to a ton of listings, especially on the north side. Frisco, Prosper, Little Elm, new developments, cookie-cutter luxury. The kind of neighborhoods where everything looks the same, but the price tags jump like crazy. At first, I thought maybe the guy was just a volume hustler, but then I spotted something weird. Same address, twice in 60 days, then again 3 months later. I cross-checked more. He was selling homes back to back, sometimes to different LLCs with vague names. One place sold for $500,000, then again for $656 weeks later. No major renovations, no permit pulls, just a fat markup. I opened county records, searched sale histories. The deeper I dug, the more crooked it looked. Some of the buyer names were straight-up nonsense. Glenwood Holdings, Midtex Assets, North 8 Property Group, all listed as single-member LLCs. I couldn't find anything real behind them. No websites, no offices, just P.O. boxes. Something was off, so I called in a favor. Eddie, I said, the second he picked up. I need eyes on a few properties that had quick resales. Eddie worked at the county assessor's office, ran analytics for their reassessment division. He owed me for helping him dodge a tax penalty back in the day. Email me the addresses, he said. I'll see what jumps. I sent over 12. He called back that afternoon. Yeah, these aren't normal. Look, this one got a reassessment in under 45 days. And this other one. Value jumped by $120,000, even though there's no record of improvement. You're looking at possible price manipulation. Legal, barely, but shady as hell. Someone's gaming the system. That was enough to keep me going. I hit up open houses on weekends, posing as a buyer. Wore a golf polo, asked dumb questions about interest rates, played the part. At a listing in Allen, one of Calvin's assistants, some 20-something with a Bluetooth in his ear, started bragging. Calvin's got private investors, he said. All cash, no inspection, no appraisal. They close in days. Even without contingencies, I asked. He laughed. That's the point. They lock it up, then relist. Easy money if you've got the capital. I kept a straight face, nodded like I was impressed. At another house in McKinney, same script, different assistant, same pitch. Once you're on Calvin's list, you don't wait in line. His buyers get in first, off-market, sometimes before it's even photographed. How? I asked. He smirked. Connections, man. Calvin's got the magic touch. Yeah, the kind of touch that stinks of fraud. Each visit confirmed it. He wasn't just running a brokerage, he was flipping through shell games, selling to his own entities, pumping the price, flipping again, fake demand, rigged comps. And if he had people in appraisal or escrow playing along, that meant something bigger was in play. I printed every sale record I could get my hands on, cross-referenced buyers, matched timelines. If I'd been wrong, I would have let it go. But this wasn't a hunch anymore. It was a pattern, and patterns are what I live for. I wasn't going to Jenna with this yet, not until I had something airtight. She was still in his world, still cashing checks and calling it luck. But I was starting to see it for what it was. She wasn't just working for Calvin. She was standing in the middle of a storm, and the lightning was getting closer. I spent the next few nights in front of my laptop, buried in records, property sales, business registries, licensing databases. I didn't sleep much, didn't talk much either. I kept my head down and stayed out of Jenna's way. She thought I was just busy with tax season. I dug into every one of Calvin's so-called private investors. At first they looked clean, then I traced their ownership, and suddenly it was like turning on a blacklight in a dirty motel. One LLC would buy the house. A different one would sell it weeks later, but both tied back to the same holding company. Different names, same P.O. boxes, same registered agent out of a strip mall in Garland. Some of them didn't even bother to change the email on file. Calvin wasn't just representing investors. He was the investor. He was using dummy buyers to scoop up homes under market, barely touch them, maybe slapped on new countertops, cheap paint, then flipped them fast to out-of-town buyers for inflated prices. Usually cash offers, no contingencies, always with glowing inspection reports and fresh comps. That's when I realized the comps were fake. I pulled recent sales for a 2-mile radius around one of his flips in McKinney. The price jump made 0 cents. Same floor plan next door had sold for $100,000 less 3 weeks earlier. The only difference? Calvin's flip came with a glowing appraisal and an as-is clause. That smelled like an inside job. I searched the appraiser's license. Same guy showed up on 8 different sales. Then I checked the inspector. Same story. In some cases, he signed off on the walkthrough before the sale even recorded. At that point, mortgage fraud wasn't just a maybe. It was flashing in neon. I logged every document I could legally pull. Deeds, sales timelines, wire transfers, entity formation dates. I built charts. I linked LLCS. I flagged names. It wasn't pretty, but it was enough to make any regulator perk up. Meanwhile, Jenna was getting pulled deeper in. She started mentioning deals with new buyers that weren't listed yet. She said things like, Calvin's bringing in serious money, some investor group from the West Coast. She acted excited, like it was her big break. Said she was closing fast, racking up commissions, building a name. I played dumb, but every time she celebrated, my stomach turned. I watched her slide into the same mess I was tracking. Her signature was on closing documents. She was listed as the agent of record for houses I knew were flipping through Calvin's shell companies. And she didn't see it. Or maybe didn't want to. One night I asked casually, that buyer on the Castle Rock deal, Glenfield Holdings, you ever meet them? She shook her head. Nah, it's some guy out of Arizona, I think. Everything's done through a fund manager. That was all I needed. Glenfield was Calvin, the fund manager. A fake name linked to 3 other LLCS I'd already flagged. She was doing business with ghosts, signing off on paperwork tied to money that didn't exist. And if it all came crashing down, they'd pin it on someone, not Calvin. He was too far removed. Everything pointed to the agents, the buyers, the lenders, Jenna. She wasn't sleeping with him, I was sure of that now, but he was still using her, dressing it up with praise, flirty messages, maybe a few high-end gifts, all while positioning her as his golden girl for deals that reeked of fraud. I sat there that night and stared at the spreadsheets, at her name on the sales, at the fake buyers. I felt sick. She was in over her head. She wasn't the scammer, but she was a tool, a smiling face at the front of a con she didn't even know she was part of. And if I didn't do something soon, she was going to go down with him. I waited until after dinner. She was on the couch, still in her work clothes, scrolling through listings on her phone. I dropped a folder on the coffee table in front of her. Thick color-coded tabs, dates, sale prices, buyer names. She looked up. What's this? Comps, I said, for Castle Rock, and the 4 before it. She flipped open the folder. Her eyes moved slow at first, then faster. She stopped at a side-by-side I printed, the real comp and the inflated one her deal used. Where did you get all this? She asked, voice tight. Public records, I said. Your name's on 3 of them. She didn't speak for a few seconds. Then she slid the folder aside and rubbed her face with both hands. I knew something felt off, she said finally. I just didn't want to ask. Didn't want to, or weren't allowed to. She looked up at me, eyes glassy now. Both. I sat across from her, elbows on my knees. How long? She exhaled, long and slow. Couple months, maybe longer. The first time I asked questions, Calvin just smiled and said, take the win. Don't overthink your commission, she laughed bitterly. He always makes it sound like a favor. Did you know about the fake comps? She shook her head. No, but I stopped checking. I knew the buyers didn't smell right, didn't care. The money was too good. I kept my voice steady. He's laundering through his own shell companies, buying low, selling high to fake entities, using appraisers on his payroll, and you're helping him close. She didn't deny it. Instead, she said, "He touches people, you know. Always casual, hand on the back, fingers brushing your waist." I told myself it didn't mean anything. I sat up straighter. "Did he touch you?" Her voice dropped. "Once. I was in his office. He shut the door, stood behind me while I was looking at listings, put his hand on my hip." I froze. I stared at her. My fists clenched. "I didn't know what to do," she said. I just smiled, made a dumb joke, walked out like it didn't happen. "Why didn't you tell me?" She looked ashamed. "Because I didn't want it to be true. And I didn't want you to look at me like you are right now." I eased back, jaw tight. I wasn't angry at her, not really. I was angry at the trap she'd walked into, and the bastard who said it. "You're not the one I'm looking at," I said. "He is." She wiped her eyes. "I didn't sleep with him." "I know," I said, "but he's using you. And he's sloppy. I can prove it, but I need more." Her voice cracked. "What kind of more? Internal stuff, patterns, instructions, anything that shows he's directing this, not just benefiting from it." She hesitated, then nodded slowly. "You want me to help take him down. I want you to stop him from doing this to anyone else," I said, "including you." She sat in silence for a long time. Then she reached over, pulled the folder back into her lap, and said, "Tell me what to look for." Jenna didn't waste time. The very next morning, she started taking notes, quietly, carefully. She used code names for properties, flagged internal messages, kept everything on a password-protected drive she didn't connect to the office network. She'd get home late, kiss me on the cheek, and slip into our office. 10 minutes later, I'd hear typing. No music, no phone calls, just focused silence. She logged every investor Calvin assigned her to, what escrow company was used, what title agent signed off, and who the supposed buyer was. She flagged weird edits in listing files, last-minute wire instructions, and anything that smelled off. Meanwhile, I went to work on the outside. I reached out to Logan, a guy I used to work with back when I was in state compliance. He'd moved over to the Texas Real Estate Board a year ago. "You ever hear of a broker named Calvin Marsh?" I asked. "Big shot out of Collin County," he said. "Yeah, he's on our radar." That was all I needed. I didn't send him everything, just a few redacted sales, with buyer and agent names blacked out. He called back 2 days later. "Whoever this is," he said, "they're running close to the edge." "How close?" "Close enough that if we can prove it's intentional, the license is gone, maybe worse." I also called Max, a financial crimes attorney I'd helped during a tax audit a few years back. He owed me a favor. "Tell me what sticks in court," I said. "Not smoke, fire. Intent and pattern," he said. "Forget the flashy stuff. You need to show he knew what he was doing, that it wasn't sloppy paperwork or client error. Prove it's systematic, not random." So that's what we did. We built a timeline. Jenna gave me key dates, closings, wire dates, internal file swaps. I matched them to Calvin's LLCS, ran ownership records, mapped how money moved from buyer to title to seller, and then back into companies Calvin controlled. Some of the buyers used the same notary, same inspector, same title office, every time. And then Jenna caught the break we needed. She'd been reassigned to a file for a home in Plano. Nothing special, just a 3-bed, 2-bath starter, but the buyer's ID number on the license didn't match. She double-checked it against the system. Nothing came up. She ran it again. Still nothing. Then she got curious. She ran the number through a public death records database. The name on the license was David L. Haynes. The social belonged to a man who died 4 years ago in Kansas. She took a screenshot, saved the license image, flagged the escrow folder, forwarded me everything through our shared drive. When I opened it, I stared at the screen for a long time. "Jesus Christ," I said. "He's using dead people." That night, I pulled every shell buyer we'd flagged and started checking social security numbers and license numbers through open source data tools. 2 others came back invalid. One didn't exist in any state. The other had a license revoked in Arizona 3 years ago. This wasn't some clever tax dodge or gray area flip scheme. This was identity fraud, mortgage fraud, wire fraud, all sitting under Calvin's name. Jenna looked sick the more we uncovered. "I signed off on that file," she said. I sat across from the title officer. I saw the signature. "You didn't know," I told her, "but now you do." She didn't argue. She just kept working. Every night, more notes, more screen grabs. She started printing backups, hiding flash drives in old purses, just in case things went sideways. I'd never seen her like that before. Focused, angry, awake in a way she hadn't been in years. "He built this on fear," she said one night. "He gets you hooked on the money, and the minute you ask questions, you're not a team player." "He's untouchable." I looked at our wall, covered in timelines, sale addresses, printed screenshots. Not anymore. I knew it was coming the second I saw his name pop up in my inbox. Subject line, lunch, no details, just a time and address. Some overpriced steakhouse in Uptown where people like him drank $30 bourbon and talked like the world belonged to them. I showed up early and sat with my back to the wall. He walked in 10 minutes late. No apology, all confidence. Tailored jacket, sunglasses indoors, handshake like he thought I should be honored. "You like ribeye?" he asked, sliding into the booth like we were old friends. "I like the truth," I said. He smiled like I was being cute. "I hear you've been busy," he said, signaling the waiter. "Asking around. Looking into files that don't belong to you. Bold." I didn't answer. I'd already started recording on my phone, face down on the table, screen dark. He leaned back like this was some casual chat. "Let me be direct," he said. "I've got a spot open on an advisory board. Property investment group. Nothing public. Hands off. Good tax breaks." He paused, waited for a reaction. $500,000 up front," he said, low and slow. "Just to be a name on the masthead." I looked him dead in the face. "You think I'm that cheap?" "Please," he said. "You're not cheap. You're smart. You married up, and now you're protecting your investment." I didn't blink. He leaned in. "Jenna's due for a raise. We're thinking performance bonus, maybe bump her commission split, but only if things stay friendly. And if they don't," he grinned, sat back again. "You strike me as a righteous guy. Righteous guys always think the system works in their favor." He picked up his water, took a sip. "But the system answers to people like me." I stayed quiet. "I've got friends on the appraisal board," he said. "Licensing division too. Hell, maybe even a guy or two over at the IRS. He let that hang. I leaned forward. "Then maybe you should call one of your friends and ask what they'll do when they see a buyer license tied to a dead man." His smile dropped for half a second. Not long, but long enough. He tried to play it off. "You're digging in places you don't understand." "No," I said. "You're burying bodies in plain sight and hoping no one calls your bluff." He stared at me. For the first time, I saw it. Not fear exactly, but calculation. Like he was scanning for a new angle. "You walk out of here," he said. "You better be sure. Because once this turns, it turns hard. You don't want to be on the wrong side of momentum." I stood up. "I'm not on any side. I'm just not for sale." He chuckled. "Then I hope your wife's ready to find out what it costs to stay honest." I left him there, sitting in his fake power like it still meant something. Outside, I stopped on the curb, pulled out my phone, and hit save on the recording. He didn't just admit guilt. He gave me everything I needed. A week after that lunch, Jenna got reassigned. No warning, no explanation. Just a cold email from HR saying she was being temporarily relocated to a district out in Mesquite. The listings were garbage. Foreclosures, rentals, deals that barely broke commission. And the hours, late evenings, weekends, all the scraps no one else wanted. I asked her if she wanted to quit. "No," she said. "Not yet." Let him think I'm boxed in. The next morning, I got a letter from the IRS audit notice. Standard language, vague phrasing, but I knew what it was. Not random, not routine. This was a pressure tactic. Then an old client of mine, Martin, a small business guy I'd handled for 4 years, called out of the blue. "Hey man, just wanted to give you a heads up." Some guy from a local real estate group came to our networking event and said, "Your firm's got flags." Said we should look elsewhere for tax help. Who? Didn't say directly, but it was someone connected to that Marsh guy. I asked around. I thanked him for the call, hung up, sat at my desk, staring at the audit notice. Calvin was flexing. Later that week, one of the buyers Jenna flagged, a guy named Shaw, ghosted us. He'd agreed to speak to the mortgage regulator, but suddenly he was too busy. I called him directly. "Look," he said, voice shaking, "Calvin told me my mortgage could be reevaluated if I cooperate." "Meaning what?" I asked. He said it'd be a shame if someone reviewed the original income docs and decided I'd misrepresented something. There it was, threat by implication. Just enough to scare someone, not enough to prove in court. But I wasn't backing off. I gave everything we had: documents, emails, timeline spreadsheets, even that restaurant recording, to the fraud division at the Texas Real Estate Commission. I sat down with a contact at the mortgage regulator's office and walked him through the comp fraud and the shell companies. Dead buyers, ghost LLCS, rigged appraisals, I said. It's organized, and it's deep. They listened, took it seriously, opened a preliminary review. But I didn't stop there. I sent an anonymous tip, full PDF packet, to a real estate journalist I trusted out of Austin. She'd covered housing scams before. Sharp, ruthless, always verified every source. Within 3 days, she replied, "Looking into it. You'll hear from me soon." Calvin responded like I hoped he would, with arrogance. 2 days later, I was served. Defamation lawsuit, $2 million, filed personally under his name, not through the firm. He wanted to shut me up, freeze me financially, drag me through court and make an example. Big mistake, because now we had legal standing to pull discovery. Jenna and I sat at the kitchen table that night, going over the filing. "He really thinks this will scare us," she said. I smiled. "No, he thinks it'll shut us up before we get close." I called Max, the financial crimes attorney. "Can I use this suit to subpoena his business records?" I asked. He didn't hesitate. "Hell yes. If he opened this door, you walk through it, all the way." I filed a countersuit, then submitted discovery requests for every transaction tied to his name or any entity under his control: mortgage applications, escrow files, appraisal records, internal brokerage memos. He thought he'd buried the paper trail, but now he was legally required to dig it up. Jenna started hearing whispers in the office. A few agents asking questions, nervous glances from Calvin's assistants. One even asked her if she was still loyal. That same night, the journalist emailed again. "Need to meet. This story's bigger than I thought." Calvin had drawn a line in the sand. He thought we'd back down once it got real. Instead, we were just getting started. The first crack came from inside. Calvin's own assistant, a sharp kid named Troy, who always looked like he wanted to be anywhere else, flipped. His name popped up on the subpoena list, and the second he got a call from our attorney, he folded like wet cardboard, said he wasn't going down for Calvin's mess. Troy handed over everything: forged email chains, drafts of inflated appraisals, scripts Calvin gave him to coach inspectors, even blank buyer forms with fake names typed in, just waiting to be filled and filed. That's when it all detonated. State agents moved first, then the feds. Early morning raid on the brokerage. Pulled servers, hauled off desktops, boxed up files. Jenna got the text from a coworker before the news even hit. "They're here. Calvin's gone." By noon, it was all over the news. High-profile broker. Arrested for multi-million-dollar real estate fraud. Wire fraud, conspiracy, mortgage manipulation. FBI confirms investigation involves dozens of shell companies. Jenna testified the following week. She walked into the hearing like it was her own sentencing. Pale, stiff, jaw locked. But she didn't flinch. Told them everything. The fake buyers. The pressure to stay quiet. Calvin's threats. The forged license she found. Because she cooperated early and handed over documentation, she got full immunity. Still, you could see it in her face. The shame. The weight of every signature she didn't question. But she showed up, told the truth, and walked out with her head up. Then the flood started. Former clients, families, first-time buyers, investors from out of state came forward in waves. Some had paid way over market, only to find out their homes were worth far less than they were told. One guy said he bought a flipped duplex. Calvin's team swore was brand new inside. Turned out the electrical hadn't been touched since the 90s. Another couple paid cash for a home with falsified comps, then couldn't sell it when their relocation fell through. The stories piled up. So did the lawsuits. The brokerage shut down within a month. Agents scattered. Some quit the business entirely. Jenna and I, we didn't get thank yous, not from the industry. She was iced out, blacklisted. No one wanted to touch her. Not brokers, not agents, not title reps. Even the honest ones were too scared. I lost clients too. Some didn't want their names anywhere near mine once the headlines started running. A couple said I should have stayed out of it. Not your mess, one guy told me. But the right ones stayed. I picked up a few new clients who said they respected what I did. One even said, took guts. Most people just looked the other way. And I'd take that over fake smiles and backroom deals any day. Jenna struggled more. Some nights she'd just sit on the edge of the bed and stare at nothing. They think I'm part of it, she said once. You're not, I told her, and the ones who matter know that. She nodded, but I could see it still ate at her. We weren't heroes. We weren't celebrated. We were the ones who spoke up, and in this industry, that made us dangerous. But we slept at night. We did the right thing, and that counted for something. We didn't go back to normal. That version of life was gone. But we built something better. Jenna and I opened a home buyer advisory service out of a small office space in Richardson. No fluff, no sales pitches, just real help. How to read appraisals, challenge shady agent pressure, understand what's really in a closing doc. We taught people how not to get screwed. Word got around. A few of Calvin's former clients, the ones who lost big, reached out. One couple wired $5,000 out of nowhere, said it wasn't a donation, it was an investment. They'd been lied to, and they wanted to back something honest. That money helped us launch our first seminar. 20 people showed up, then 40. Then we had to rent a bigger space. Agents hated us. Brokers warned people we were troublemakers, who didn't understand how the industry really worked. One even called me a buzzkill with a grudge. But none of them could touch us. We were busy, respected, clean, and we didn't know anyone anything. One afternoon, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. Young couple on the line, sounded nervous but grateful. We came to your talk last month, the guy said. Almost signed on a place in Oak Cliff, but we remembered what you said about comps not matching upgrades. Asked the right questions. Backed out. His wife chimed in. You probably saved us from years of debt. I sat there, holding the phone, letting that land. This all started because someone tried to take my wife. Not just from me, but from herself. Turned her into a pawn in his little empire. She could have gone down with him. I could have looked the other way. We didn't. Instead, we built something that protects people like us. People who don't know how to read the fine print. People who are just trying to buy a damn home without getting eaten alive. Calvin got 6 years in federal prison. Wire fraud, conspiracy, identity theft. He cried in court like it meant something. His name's a punchline now. Ours is on the door. Would you have taken Calvin's bribe or exposed him like we did? Drop your answer in the comments. We want to hear it. And if you like the story, hit like and subscribe for more.